Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So, Evam Vedam Tvam Sakalatvanam Api Swatmanam Atmat Matya Vichakshate Guru Arka Labdo Panishat Suchakshusha Ye Te Tarantiva Vanritambudim. So, I guess we won't do this responsibly. I'll just recite it since we don't have it written down. Evam vidam tvam sakalatmanam api swatmanamatmat mattaya vichakshate gurvarkalabdo panishatshu chakshusha yete tanantiva vavanritambuhim evam vidam tvam sakalatmanam api swatmanamatmat mattaya vichakshate gurvarkalabdo panishatshu chakshusha yete tarantiva vavanritambuhim evam vidam tvam sakalatmanam api swatmanamatmat mataya vichakshate gurvarkalabdo panishatshu chakshusha yete tarantiva vavanritambuhim. I guess some of you have it. Does anyone want to try it? Let Tiger go first.
Evam vidam tvam sakalatmanam api.
Evam vidam tvam sakalatmanam api.
Swatmanam atmamatya vikashate.
Swatmanam atmat mataya vichakshate. Agurvarkalabdo panishatshu chakshusha
Yete tarantiva bhavanritambudim.
yete tarantiva bhavanritambudim. Evam vidam tvam sakalatmanam api. Svatmanamatmat mataya vichakshate. Guvarkalabdo panishatshu chakshusha yete tarantiva bhavanritambudim. That's it. So, word by word. Evam vidam, as thus described. Tvam, you. Sakala, of all. Atmanham, souls. Api, indeed. Swaatmanam, the very soul. Atmataya, as the super soul. Vichakshate, they see. Guru, from the spiritual master. Arka, who is like the sun. Labda, received. Upanishad, of confidential knowledge. Suchakshusha, by the perfect eye. Yea, who? Te, they. Turanti, crossover. Viva, easily. Baba, of material existence. Anrita, which is not real.
which is not real.
Ambudim,
Unreal.
the ocean.
The ocean.
So translation, those who have received the clear vision of knowledge from the sun-like spiritual master can see you in this way as the very soul of all souls, the super soul of everyone's own self. Thus, understanding your original personality, they are able to cross over the ocean of illusory material existence. So, you can repeat, those who have received
Those who have received
the clear vision of knowledge
the clear vision of knowledge
from the sun-like spiritual master
from the sunlight spiritual master
can see you in this way
can see you in this way
as the very soul of all souls,
as the very soul of all souls,
the super soul of everyone's own self.
the super soul of everyone's own self.
Thus, understanding the original personality,
Thus, understanding your original personality,
they were able to cross over the ocean
you are able to cross over the ocean
of the illusory material existence.
of the illusory material existence.
So, purport, by the servants of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, text 9, Janma Karma Chame Divya, Evam Yo Veti Tatvataha, Tyaktva Deyam Punarjanma Naiti Mam Eti Sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature by appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. O Arjuna. So again, evam vidam tvam sakalatmanam api swatmanam mataya vichakshate gurarka labdo panishat shukshusha yete tadantiva bhavan ritam purim. So, Om Ganat Nirandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unriditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, of course, this verse deals with approaching the spiritual master. Actually, the word Labdo Upanishad means to come closer, and Prabhupada's servants translated this confidential knowledge, which means something that is revealed to someone who is very close. Like you have the Upanishads, means to come closer, to learn something confidential. And of course, that confidential knowledge is described by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter. Confidential knowledge, the most confidential knowledge. Dam tu te guyatamam prabhakshanam anusuyave yanabhijana sahitam ekatvat mokshe shubha. Same thing. Actually, it's the same thing that's being described here. Idam tu te, this is being given to you. Guyatamam, that's superlative for secret. The most secret. Superlative means most. For example, comparative is a different thing. It's more, and then there's the most. So, most confidential, because you are not, envious. So, this is why Krishna is revealing it to Arjuna. Now, the process for receiving confidential knowledge and realizing confidential knowledge from the spiritual master is described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in a very interesting way. He describes it as pancha samskara. I'm going to talk about this, which is very interesting. And I'm going to describe pancha, of course, means 5. Samskara means sometimes defined as reformatory practice, and sometimes described as impressions, just like sometimes you'll say that he or she has really bad samskaras. That means, doesn't mean necessarily they'll have bad reformatory practices, that means they have bad impressions from past births. Someone just can't give up eating meat, someone can't stop drinking alcohol, just really bad samskaras. And of course, By the chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Chito Dharpana Marjanam, those particular samskaras can be cleansed or eradicated. So, let's get back to the point. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this approaching or dealing with the spiritual master has 5 aspects which are essential, which is really interesting. It's called Pancha Samskara. So the first aspect is called Tapa. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his writings describes this in a very interesting way. He says this indicates in other sampradayas, not followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that the tapa of course means austerity, tapa, the first word spoken in the creation to Lord Brahma, that the tapa would indicate that one gets the branding of the signs of Vishnu on his body. And we're talking about branding. We're not talking about, just like writing the names of Krishna or something like that. That means a hot. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that they do this amongst the followers of Madhvacharya, amongst the followers of Ramanujacharya and other sampradayas. They would put a hot brand in the fire and just... Now, he said, by the mercy of Bhaktivinoda Thakur states this very succinctly, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we don't do that. But we have an aspect of tapa, because that tapa really is a mark. It's like a brand, like you have in America, of course, you used to have and probably still have, that they would brand cows. And these cows would be branded by the owner's brand. You understand what I mean? It'd be like Circle K or something like that. That's a Hare Krishna brand. So Circle K, or whatever, or Flatiron, or whatever the brand happens to be. And that way you understood that cow belongs to you. I'm not justifying that activity. I'm just saying that's what branding is. So tapa would basically mean that, according to the Upanishad, Ishavasha Vidam Sarvam Jagat Jagadam Jagat, that everything is owned by Krishna. I'm owned by Krishna. Or as stated, Manasageha Deha Yokishimor Abrilam Tuyapadi Nanakashore. Everything is yours, Nanakashore. My mind, my body, my home, my wife, my family, everything is yours, Nanakashore. So that's really the essence of tapa. Even though we don't do that particular tapa, it's the very essence of it. So he says the internal aspect, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he writes very nicely about this Pancha Samskara. It's a very short essay he's written. I don't know if anyone's written it. I read this essay, but it's very interesting. He says the essence of it is the internal understanding that, as Lord Chaitanya says, the first surrendering principle is to accept everything favorable. The second set of surrendering principles is to reject everything unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. In other words, reject things that don't please Krishna and accept things that please Krishna. In other words, this body belongs to Krishna. That's tapa. Instead of externally branding, he says internally. And then the next aspect of the Pancha Samskara, Pundra, and that's very interesting. We do that. That means marking the body with, two parallel lines. Of course, that's tilak, in case you haven't figured that out. That indicate, like Krishna's lotus feet, and sometimes, the tulsi, whatever. But this marking the body, this pundra. So he said these are essential things, which is really interesting. Of course, we do chant Hare Krishna, and that is the most essential thing. But he says these 5 aspects, as long as one is in the conditioned stage, which I think refers to most of us in this room, maybe not everyone, then these 5 aspects are important. So the next one is of course, Yuga Dharma, is Nama. That means the name of Krishna. One gets the name of Krishna from the spiritual master. Of course, it has to be heard from the proper source in disciplic succession. Sampradaya Vinaya Mantras Tedish Para Mataha, that if one accepts, thank you, if one accepts a mantra from someone not in the cyclic succession, it's not going to have effect, or even worse, it'll have a poisonous effect. Sarpo Chisti Atape Vaishnava Moko Girnam Putam Adikatam Ritam Shravananaiva Kartavyam Sarpo Chisti Atapayam. If one hears about Krishna from someone who's not Krishna conscious, then it has poisonous effects, even though the person may be chanting very beautifully. An expert musician, so we know many expert musicians who chant Hare Krishna and they're eating meat. And devotees love them. Devotees buy their CDs, listen to them day and night. So anyway, Nama. And the next two are actually a little more advanced. Next one is called Mantra. Now you may say, what's the difference between mantra and Nama? Nama means Krishna's name, like Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Gauranga, different names of Krishna. Mantra refers to Gayatri mantras, obviously, which are specific manifestations of internal meditation, not just things that you chant, but internal meditation upon different aspects of the Lord's energies, the Lord's devotees, the spiritual master, of course, the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna and Vrindavan, the gopis, and Radharani. I mean, it's very esoteric, of course. And so that's an essential aspect that one gets mantra. And then the last one is yajna. It's not yajna. There's a difference. Yajna means sacrifice, swaha, swaha, but that's not an essential aspect. It's not that everybody has to learn how to do sacrifices. In fact, sacrifices are not even the recommended process for this day and age. But yajna means deity worship. So that's the last one. So everyone should do some sort of deity worship. And deity worship, of course, Prabhupada said that if one is living close to the temple, when doing the deity worship in the temple, that's first class. And, it's not as first class. I don't want to say second or third class, but anyway, one want to be politically correct. When one is living a long distance away from the temple, but one doesn't anyway. And Prabhupada said that, actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that devotee will keep a Govardhan Shila or a Shalimar Shila in the home and do some puja. So he was referring to that. Of course, we understand according to our Srila Prabhupada's instructions that it's best that one serves the deities in the temple, because the deities in the temple are actually meant to attract people to Krishna. The deities in one's home, yes, it's very nice, but you're not going to be usually inviting thousands of people into your home to see the deities, or going on the internet and showing your deities every day like we're doing. So this yajna is absolutely essential according to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So these are the 5 aspects that the guru trains the disciple in. And connected to those 5 aspects, of course, is the engagement of the disciple according to the disciple's psychophysical nature, which Srila Prabhupada describes as one of the duties of the guru. And I was listening to it, as far as the connection with the guru is concerned, I was listening to one of Prabhupada's classes this morning where Prabhupada really elaborates on what one's connection is. He said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that I don't care whether I get liberated or not. I just want to serve or please the spiritual master. So that's a very heavy statement when I heard Prabhupada say that. So this is how the guru enlightens the disciple, of course, through the various stages of devotional service elaborated by Rupa Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. such as ado, in the beginning, shraddha, the initial faith. I mean, faith is very hard to obtain, at least firm faith, like Krishna says in the Gita. Shraddha purusha dharma shasha parantapa aprapriyamam nivartante mritu samsara varmani. Then if one doesn't have firm faith, then one definitely returns to birth and death in this material world. And even in the Christian literature, you have statements, like, faith can move mountains. So faith is really important, and sometimes there are tests of faith. And in Christianity, that's called the dark night of the soul. So what types of tests of faith are there? I mean, for example, I was just talking to devotees in Europe, and they were saying, well, how can I have faith in God after seeing what's happening in Australia? I don't know if any of you know what's been happening in Australia. In Australia, there's like thousands, not thousands, even billions or hundreds of millions of animals being burned to death. And especially people are concentrating on the cute little koala bears. I mean, they don't care so much about the spiders and the snakes and the cockroaches and everything like that, but koala bears, they could be, we don't want them burned to death, but the hell with the rest of the creatures. So, I mean, that's definitely a test of faith. So they were, it wasn't devotees that I was talking to, it was a preaching program in Germany. And they were saying, how can you believe in God and all these things are happening? And of course I explained karma in a very compassionate way. We didn't want to say it's their karma, but we described it that people have done, that animals are not actually that body either, just like human beings are not their body. They had a previous birth, and what's happening to them is God's plan to teach them that ultimately they don't belong in the material world. And miseries happen to everybody, not just the animals in Australia, in the forest fires of Australia. So we explained later, so that's a test of faith. Or I was speaking to actually Adi Purusha, who is attending Cambridge University, and he's describing how it's very dangerous for devotees to go to the university. Actually, Prabhupada considered sometimes the university and some of the mundane schools to be slaughterhouses. And why did he consider slaughterhouses? Because you'll get so much propaganda that may conflict with your religious beliefs. Sometimes that propaganda is in the name of science, in the name of archaeology or anthropology, and it just like it tests your faith. You're thinking, oh my God, what am I believing in? And then one has to, if one is going to go that route, one has to study something like hermeneutics, how to interpret Shastra, understand the words of the spiritual master. It's very complicated. I'm not going to get into it right now. So the main thing is one needs to have firm faith. So that firm faith is the foundation for Krishna consciousness, especially faith in the spiritual master and faith in the Vedic literatures. Yasha Devi Pura Bhakti, Yata Devi Tata Guru. Faith in Guru and the spiritual master and the Vedic literatures, Yasha Prakashante Mahatmana, then everything gets revealed to that great soul as a faith. But that's the beginning. Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangota. And when one has that faith, one begins, of course, in the beginning it's not firm faith, later on it becomes firm. It grows with the process of devotional service, and then one associates with the devotees, and then when one associates with the devotees, then you come to the point of approaching the spiritual master. That's called bhajana kriya, which is part of this pancha samskara, which we just described before. And by this pancha samskara, under the direction of the spiritual master, pancha samskara under the direction of the spiritual master, then one progresses further to anartha nivritti, getting rid of the anarthas, unwanted things. Then one progresses further to nishta, being fixed in devotional service 24/7. Then one progresses further to getting ruchi, or a taste, a firm taste that goes on 24 hours a day. I know that all of us, we get a taste from time to time, even when we first join Krishna consciousness. And that may be described as, according to Rupa Goswami, as dried up or burnt up, bhava or attachment. But later on it becomes firm taste, which is ruchi. And then after ruchi, as shakti, one becomes completely detached from all things of this world. And then bhava, one gets spiritual emotions, which are constantly part of one's nature. And then after that, prema. So all these things occur due to the connection and the guidance of the spiritual master, which is described here. Guru Varka. This is a very interesting phrase. Guru Varka. Arka means like the sun or light. Just Arka. Guru Varka, the son of the Guru, or the Guru is like the sun. Labdo Panishat, when one receives this confidential knowledge. Su-chakshusha, that means one who has Shastra Chakshu, sees through the eyes of Shastra. And then Turanti Iva Bhavamrita, Anrita, crosses over easily this ocean of material existence, which is not real. In other words, the ocean of material existence is real, but we perceive it in an unreal way. I think it's important to understand that material existence, or this material world, is real, but it becomes material existence by our attachment to it, which is unreal. Okay, so these are some of the points. So anybody have any questions? We've got 3 minutes left for class. Apurvaji.
I was very interested in you mentioned about the class you gave. I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more, because you mentioned that you keep telling me that this is a special way that God is teaching them.
All right, yeah. So it's very, when you're dealing with people who don't have faith in Krishna, in God. I mean, they weren't actually from India, so it was in God, G-O-D. One has to be very careful when one explains the concept of karma. If you say, well, they deserved it, which is true. We're not denying that. They did deserve it, they did do something in their past lives, but that appears really heartless. So you've got to be sensitive to people. And so the way I did explain it, is that these animals actually are eternal spirit souls. They did something in the past life, and this is to teach them something so that they would give up their, I didn't use the word sin, but give up their activity which is counterproductive for spirituality. You have to be really careful, because you bring out these words. When dealing with Western people, it's certain words like sin that really tick people off, because they equate that with born-again Christianity. So I said that, these animals were living entities, they were human beings, because you only acquire karma in the human species of life. You don't acquire karma as a dog or as a cute little koala bear, only as a human being. So they were human beings in the past life, and they did something, and there's a lesson they have to be learned. So I explained karma, or the karmic reaction that they're receiving, in more of there's a technical word, is restorative way, to bring them to the right frame of consciousness. This is to help them. Because if you explain justice in a retributive way, then it really gets people. People don't appreciate that. You know, God just wants to punish. It's like Christianity, for example, where you see someone who did surrender to Jesus in this particular lifetime. They're frying in some ocean of fire or whatever it is, you know, fire and brimstone. And they're saying to God, God, get me out of here. And God's up there, you know, I saw a Christian tract, which you probably saw. God is there saying, well, you didn't do it in this lifetime, you know, too bad, buddy, you know, fry eternally in hell. So you don't want to explain it in such a way that it will, let's see, stimulate some negative thoughts. And then you explain it in a very, you know, in a very logical way. That God is doing this to reform the person, which is true. It's not actually that God just simply wants you to suffer. The punishments are given to reform the particular entity. And of course, we're not happy to see that. You know, if we could help them alleviate that situation, we would do that by chanting Hare Krishna to the koala bears. And the koala bears would be relieved of their karma. And so a devotee doesn't like that people or koala bears, any entity is suffering. And by the process of Krishna consciousness, we can actually rectify the consciousness without them having to go through that particular punishment. Just like when we chant Hare Krishna, all the karma, prarabdha karma, and all the other types of karma are eradicated. Whatever we had to go through is minimized in a token reaction. Like Prabhupada gives the example, the unplugging of the fan. Anyway, I think we have to greet the deities.